Hello everyone and welcome to the internal briefing on the Run of the River Hydro project with the Ktunaxa Nation. Firstly, Yusuf will be presenting information on the Ktunaxa First Nations and their heritage. Followed by that, Seth will speak on the science involved behind Run of the River Hydro projects. Next, Lucas will provide insight of the logistics and implementation process involved with this project. Brody will follow up with information about impacts and consultations of past projects with the Ktunaxa Nation. Lastly, I will provide you some important factors to consider when proceeding to consult with Indigenous communities, as well as good consultation and engagement practices. I would now like to pass the spotlight on to Yusuf.
Thank you, Phil. The Ktunaxa territory, also known as Katamuk, spans around 7 million hectares of land around the Kootenay, Columbia rivers, and Arrow Lakes in British Columbia. The Ktunaxa language is one of a kind and is not related to any other languages. In Ktunaxa history, humans possessed numerous personal spirits who were often associated with the rivers and cascades. Today, they celebrate these principles through ceremonies such as the grizzly bear, sun dance, and the blanket ceremony. Moving on. The Ktunaxa Council consists of a singular chief and 4 councillors. The chief, Chief Joe Pierre Jr., is also in charge of the economic sector at the Ktunaxa Nation level. Councillor Cody holds the portfolio of social sector and also sits on a multitude of committees. Councillor Julie holds the traditional knowledge and language sector. Councillor Vicky Thomas holds the education and employment sector. And lastly, Councillor Jason Andrew, who is in charge of the lands and resources portfolio. Now, I would like to pass it on to Seth, who will speak about the science behind our clean energy product.
Hi, I'm Seth, and I'm going to talk about run-of-river hydro. Run-of-river hydro is a unique type of electricity production that is known for having a small carbon footprint while still providing substantial energy. It does so by using the natural elevation differences found in mountains and the pre-existing streams in those areas. Part of the water flow from the stream is diverted and sent through an underground pipe. The water then rotates one or more turbines, which in turn power a generator that converts the motion into electricity. After this process is complete, the water is returned to the natural stream. Because of the requirements of mountainous regions with fast-flowing streams, British Columbia is the perfect place for run-of-river hydro to be implemented. A study done in late 2014 revealed that there were 56 run-of-river projects that gave energy directly to BC Hydro. The BC government is in support of these projects because they provide a domestic source of energy, reducing BC's reliance on international energy. In a standard hydro system, the flow of a river is restricted by a dam. Typically, this inhibits the flow of all or almost all the water flowing. In run-of-river hydro, usually only about 2/3 of the stream's annual flow will be utilized by the system. Additionally, when planned out beforehand, run-of-river hydro productions can provide better access to fishing, swimming, and boating, depending on where the structure is to be built. The green energy provided by one project annually is equivalent to removing 3,000 cars off of the road for 1 year. The main negative side effect of run-of-river hydro is the effect it can have on salmonids. Salmonids are a family of fish including salmon, trout, chars, etc. However, these negative effects can be easily remedied by simply being mindful of this and building with the fish's habitat in mind. Now that you understand the fundamentals of run-of-river hydro, Lucas is going to talk a bit about the logistics of implementation.
Thanks, Seth. I'll be speaking on the logistics of implementing a run-of-river hydro system. When designing a small hydro project, it is essential to construct it in an optimal geographic location. An area with many mountains, rivers, and lots of precipitation is perfect as it ensures fast-moving, full rivers. This allows the hydro system to work as efficiently as possible. Furthermore, as shown in the map, a large portion of the Ktunaxa Nation is within BC, making it a perfect location to implement a run-of-river hydro system due to the mountains and precipitation we receive. We also have to take into account the impacts of implementing a small hydroelectric system, such as the environmental, economical, social, and cultural effects. To start, aquatic life will be slightly affected negatively due to the decrease in the velocity of the river. While slight, this change may affect the fish population, habitats, and ecosystems. Also, due to the necessary construction during implementation, this will have a small negative effect on the surrounding vegetation and air quality. Areas will have to be cleared, roads will have to be formed, all while running industrial-sized equipment. However, in the long term, air quality will be benefited due to the lack of fossil fuels used in run-of-river technology. Economically, the Ktunaxa Nation will receive benefits as they will be given opportunities for employment during the construction period and for long-term maintenance of the system. This long-term maintenance will result in a form of consistent clean energy for generations to come. Lastly, we can offer a partnership with our nation with an agreement to share our earnings made from the project. This benefits the Ktunaxa Nation as they will have opportunities to further develop their community. Now, I'll pass it on to Brody, who will speak on previous consultation processes with the Ktunaxa Nation.
Thank you, Lucas. My name is Brody Bird. I'm going to be talking about previous consultation as well as potential project impacts. I'm first going to go over benefits of similar projects and kind of the main selling points during consultation. I'm going to be talking about concerns that have been raised by First Nations across BC in similar scenarios, and I'm going to be talking about specific concerns by the Ktunaxa Nation that are likely to come up. In terms of benefits, both Hupetchisset and Cloquiet in similar projects, their main benefits came from a decentralization of energy away from the main BC hydropower grid, as well as an increase in employment, both in training and full-time jobs, and a clean energy approach. For concerns that really are across the board for First Nations in the BC area, consultation time is a big thing. So having enough time during consultation and between consultation sessions can be incredibly important. Non-technical explanation so that the specifics of the project can be understood in both a social and an environmental context is important. And having a trusted technical advisor from the First Nation who can be a liaison as well as help understand the project specifics. I'd like to get into a little bit about specific concerns raised during consultation with the Ktunaxa Nation in the past. There was really three main ones. Understanding the importance of endangered species in the area, specifically white sturgeon, archaeological sites in terms of environmental assessment, and the loss of shallow water habitat. You'll see all three of these concerns are really centered around ecological and environmental conservation. So for us, it's really important to keep this in front of our minds during consultation practices. I'm going to pass this on to Phil, who's going to talk a little bit more about the best consultation practices. Thank you.
Thank you, Brody. Free, prior, and informed consent is an important aspect of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. Free means that there's an absence of direct or indirect factors which may affect Indigenous peoples' free will. Prior is used to outline that consent must be sought before any decisions in a project proposal can proceed. Informed demonstrate that there is a sufficient and accurate amount of information provided to the Indigenous peoples before asking for consent. Lastly, consent is used to illustrate that First Nations are legally allowed to withhold consent on proposals that affect them. Consent can only be obtained if all the factors are fulfilled. When consulting with Indigenous peoples, you should always strive to engage with them as early as possible. It is engage first, plan second. Involve the Ktunaxa Nation in the project as much as possible as well. This enables them to see their contributions shape the project and make it easier for them to address any cultural concerns or other conflicts. It is important to also acknowledge the deep connection the Ktunaxa Nation have with their surrounding lands and rivers. In Ktunaxa history, it is believed that humans possessed many personal spirits, which were often associated with rivers and cascades. Lastly, we should also try and respect their language and terminology. Try and pronounce their different terms and names correctly and address elders or certain leaders with proper titles. When consulting with First Nations or Indigenous communities, we can follow four main phases. Phase 1 is preparation. One should identify the First Nations you are working with. Find out about past treaties and agreements that they may have with the Crown. Carefully review this information and look to learn more about their interests and culture. The next phase is engagement. Proponents should first provide information and seek feedback from the First Nations. It is also wise to document all engagements, taking note of their interests and modifications to the proposed plan. Lastly, proponents should address their feedback with the proposed alternatives. Phase 3 is all about accommodation. Potential impacts should be addressed and all conflicts should try to be accommodated through discussion and agreements. It is critical that all accommodation options are identified and that you do your best to reach an agreement in a respectful manner. The last phase of the 4 focuses on decision and follow-up. This is the time where you or your company assesses prior consultations and any accommodations. Confirm the proper implementation of the changes agreed upon by all parties and provide your final decision to the First Nation.
Thank you very much. If you have any further questions during the consultation process or about the consultation team, you can reach out to me or the team at 360-451-7321. Thank you very much.